afternoon, everybody. And welcome in to the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football on this Friday. December the 5th, we're ready to get things underway. We've got a jam-packed show. We're loaded with Michigan sports to talk about. And you do a good job. You could guess what we're going to talk about, but if you don't want to guess, you don't have to, because I've got it right in front of you. I am going to give you a thought or two on Michigan fandom and how things have played out this week. And it's really, after Saturday's disappointment, and then you get Wednesday, a lot of people are on the, it seems like you've got to put yourself in position in one of the drastic categories. Either you're like, Michigan's the greatest thing of all time, and I think all the fans want to believe that and do believe that, but they don't want to hear anything else about that. And then there's the other side is, okay, Michigan's the greatest thing of all time, but they need to do some things, so let's get after it. We're looking for some of that nuance. I'll see if I can provide some coming up between those two extremes when it comes to the fan base. It is, I thought last week was one of the great weeks in all of sports with how it was played out. I was, with last night with the Lions, and then when you just look at what's going on tonight and tomorrow and Sunday, we've got another jam-packed weekend if you're someone who likes sports. And so buckle up. I'll run through all of that. But let's start with National Signing Day. National Signing Day was Wednesday. I did this marathon show, and a lot of it was me just sitting here staring at the screen saying, I don't know. I don't know if this guy's going to flip. I don't know if this guy's going to sign. And then just kind of repeat that for the next 3 hours with a little, a couple things in between. That's basically how it went. But now there could still be a player or two that could come in the fold today or this weekend. You never know with National Signing Day now. And then you really do have another a month where there'll be some, a target or two that Michigan will be looking at. But as we sit here right now, 27 players signed on the dotted line for Michigan ultimately, and it had to spill into yesterday, but they end up being close to a top 10, getting a top 10 class, 12, however you feel about it. I'm going to tell you how I feel about it overall. Looking at this week, when people talked about Michigan State's new head coach, Pat Fitzgerald, a lot of people said, well, he hasn't worked with NIL and he doesn't know about the ins and outs of the NILs. And it's a fact. I mean, he had not coached when NIL was in play. And we see how much it changes year by year. And even when we sit here this year, you wait for Wednesday and you get that sometimes there'll be a guy that, is going to wait a little bit longer, or the press conference doesn't happen right at 1:00 when he says it's going to be at 1. And then you gotta, it's the mystery of signing day. There's always these angles that come up, these narratives, these just stories. And Michigan's story, part of their story was that they had their top 2 wide receivers and their number 1 running back and one of their 5 stars or close to 5 stars, all of them were up in the air. And there were some people just saying, relax, you got to relax. But telling recruiting fans, if you specifically just talk to your average recruiting fan and tell them to relax, I mean, relax really isn't in the bio of any person that claims that they're a recruiting fan. There's nowhere in there where it says relax. It's all about, it's just super highs and terrifying lows, and then you're on to the next one. It's just such the big hit that way that trying to tell people to relax on a Wednesday on a signing day it was hard for people. I got that part. In the end, I think Michigan did all right. You don't want to be told this, although I think this is true about National Signing Day. If you just came in here and if I said, look, on National Signing Day, you're going to flip some and you're going to get some flipped, and that's the way it goes. And so let's just see what happens in the end. People are like, I want a little bit more than that, from the class, and hey, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. Okay, tell me something I don't know about that. But I look at it like this. You know what? I have liked Michigan to have a top 5 class. I'd like to have Michigan had a number 1 class. So, number 12, it's not like I'm sitting around here, throwing a big party, but it's there's also some perspective here. I look at Michigan and I take a step back and I look at this class and I say, were they able to go after the best players in the country, and were they able to land some of those? And the answer to that is yes. A guy like Meadows at a 5-star hider. Getting 2 5 stars and then being involved in a bunch of other ones. To me, that's the biggest takeaway of where things are at in college football and where Michigan fits in right now is National Signing Day. Seeing Michigan, they're positioned well. Now, it is weird that over the last 5, even to 10 years, it's like Michigan always seems like they're sitting around number 10, and there's all these different rule changes and everything else, and here they are kind of like sitting at number 10. So it's like, well, it's not really changing for Michigan. I think there's a little bit of truth to that, but it's okay as well. And the first thing when it's National Signing Day is like, can they go out and try to land the very top guys that they want? And the answer to that is yes, because of NIL. That Michigan is funded. Michigan, they have cash coming in. They're cash flush. I know that you're sitting over here and Ward Manuel might be watching this and saying, "Oh no, you got it all wrong. We need money and the collectives." But no, Michigan's in. They can be in on anyone, and they're in a good position financially with NIL. That's my feeling. You can argue it, you can say anything else, but I feel like that. So that's a win. That's good. And that also applies to the transfer portal, which is, I don't know if you want to say equally as important. It's pretty important. It's like the NFL, you have the draft, or I guess it's free agency first and then the draft. Both of those two things are important. Free agency is important. The draft is important. Signing day is very important. And then so too is the transfer portal. And Michigan, they have the ability to get transfers. I know that they might be working in tougher constraints with foreign players, and then also just upperclassmen. If they don't want to, I'm talking about their transcripts and all the things in the weeds that we talk about, but it can be done, and it shouldn't be prohibitive for Michigan. And it doesn't look like it is that prohibitive. The big part when it comes to the transfer portal, more that takes over to me, transcripts or grades or being able to go after, even upperclassmen, is that, again, they have money. They've got the bag sitting here that they can drop and they can get, and that's good. So for those two things, it's not all perfect, not all like national championship, here we come, but it's positive. There shouldn't be any complaining about that. Those are the things that we have complained about. If I looked over the last 25 years and said, what are the things that are people complaining about the most about Michigan football? Well, I'll just go to myself. I was complaining about losing to Ohio State, but then I was complaining about Michigan losing out on recruits because they couldn't pay them. And it was an uneven playing field. It's an even playing field, and Michigan is in a good spot. So I think, to me, that's great. It's the same thing with the transfer portal. So I'm feeling good. when it comes down to that. Now, the talent overall of the Michigan team, it's not set for next year. I mean, you can look at it as well as I can and say, oh, yeah, they're going to need a wide receiver. They're going to need help on the defensive line. They got to pick up you could probably go to, they need a punter. You could go to, they need a kicker. You could probably go to 10 different positions. You know how many positions there are, but you could probably say, yeah, they need all of them. They need a lot. But they can also bring in a lot, and they should be able to get a lot of quality players. And so to me, that's positive. So this seems positive to me. This week is positive. And it was good for Sharon Moore. It was good for Michigan. And it's good for Michigan moving forward. And if National Signing Day isn't a look to the future, then what is it? So I think they did good. It wasn't the greatest class of all time, but they did great. Speaking of Michigan State, I just got a story from the Associated Press that has moved here, and it says Michigan State receives $401 million gift. It includes a $390 for athletics from some guy named Greg Williams. Yeah, I don't know who that is. So, yeah, funding is big. And being able to get a lot of money is part of it. And the other teams and the rivals, they're coming after you as well. And, they've got that going. So there you go. And so with National Signing Day, it takes me into the second topic that I wanted to get into, and that is Michigan fans. And I mentioned it at the top. But you've got fans on the extreme sides. It's like this in politics. It's like this in sports. Not everybody's going to agree on everything. And, you could say, this is how I think fans should operate. These are good fans. These are bad fans, gatekeeping fans. And there were a lot of fans after Saturday's game that were really down on Michigan, down on Sharon Moore, down on the future of the program. And then that carried into Wednesday when some of the top players were out there. And then in particular, the wide receivers, people were, they're getting squirrely and saying things like, yeah, well, when your quarterback only passes for 63 yards, what do you think when you're a, top wide receiver out there? And then you wondered if Michigan was playing their cards correctly with Justice Haynes, trying to bring him back potentially when they had Savion Hyder out there, and he wasn't coming to the table and signing on Wednesday, that he ultimately ended up, signing. A lot of people was like, you guys were worried about nothing. And then Michigan, got Marchesi from Georgia to replace, or just get another, you could say Zion Robinson, who they lost out on. And Travis Johnson also ultimately signed with Michigan. So you had a lot of Michigan fans who were like, yeah, you guys were all crying and acting crazy for nothing. And I don't know, but I go back to what I said earlier. When it comes to recruiting fans, telling them they're crying about nothing on signing day, when their top two wide receivers on the board are the rethinking things, and the top running back in the country is punting to the next day, looking at some of the language in a contract, maybe you're able to just sit back and be like, oh, Michigan's got it all handled. All right. I mean, I think it was understandable. This is me throwing out an olive branch to the people that were, freaking out a little bit. I understood it. I understood the panic on Wednesday. And then waking up and being like, oh, okay. They got some of these guys. They're not so bad. But it was a wild ride. At times, I think for the people that don't like the wild ride, just, don't pay attention on the day, or maybe even the next day, maybe the next week. You look back and say, okay, how did it go? I don't know how much fun that is. Recruiting is fun. It's not fun when guys that you really were looking forward to coming in, all of a sudden you get ghosted by them. It's not fun being ghosted. I've had bosses ghost me. I hate that. I've had just other people, contacts ghost me. Of course, girls. That's not any fun either. Okay, I'm getting ghosted here. So yeah, recruits ghosting you it's not great. But then if you're able to replace some of those players, and you're feeling a little bit better about it. So the fandom part on the extreme, I'm telling everybody I understood about Wednesday. I'm actually going to back up to Saturday as well, because I think that I had to put a number on it. 80% over Michigan losing to Ohio State on Saturday. It wasn't like that after the game. I wasn't 80% the next day. I wasn't 80% when I was sitting here on Monday. I was thinking that National Signing Day was going to be a distraction, and it was, and it did help. But it's just time. Time heals a Michigan football loss. And I do have to ask myself, how long am I going to brood over losing to Ohio State this season? Is it something that I need to replay over in my mind every day? Do I need to be angry at some of the participants, the combatants, because that might make me feel better? I don't know about that. I think that's what a lot of people do. I have had to ask myself, do I want to be, so the people that are the angry still, I understand. And I think some of the hot takes and this is, Chicken Littles, some of it's okay, but I understand it because you're so into Michigan and you want them to win so badly, and it hurts. Even if you don't want it to hurt, it hurts. And so what can help you is by criticizing, the university, the athletic director, the coach, any player, any other coach, every bit of it. So I've had to ask myself and I'll just go through some of them. Sharon Moore. Michigan had an acceptable season. It was an okay season. So that's not a great season. That's not a good season. That's just okay, acceptable season. That's not a lot of fun. Hey, we had an okay season, but that's what it was. And now you might not like that stance, but if you really like the season, that's okay. And if you really didn't like it, that's okay as well. But when it comes to Sharon Moore, I've asked myself, would I be sitting here talking about beating the drum, replacing him? Let's go get somebody else. He's never going to win an Natty, which, you hear people say. I don't know what good that does. If I didn't think he should be the head coach anymore, I would say it. I would say that, this is bound to just blow up in Michigan's face. They should probably make the move now. I don't feel that way. And I'll start with the very top that people, the position that people like to take. You're never going to win a national championship with Sharon Moore, so you just better go find someone else. Like, you don't know that. And if there was a coach, if Jim Harbaugh was, I don't know if there isn't a Jim Harbaugh grand slam hire that's sitting out there that you're ready to go grab. That's always the convenient part. And it's true for fans. It's like, it's not up to me. It's up to them to find that person, even if I can't give you the name. But so I don't see it. And in general, I do like to give coaches at least 3 years. Freaking Rich Rod got 3 years. I know it's different. But I don't, you still got the money. The fans are still engaged. Everybody's still engaged. I've asked myself, so there should be another year for Sharon Moore. That's my position. I do think that they could win a national championship with him. Winning a national championship is hard. And we just saw what Michigan did with Jim Harbaugh. You can't replicate the 21 through 23. Good luck. I mean, you try to do some of that. I think Sharon Moore's tried actually to win some ball games, like, 21 through 23. But I think that he deserves another year. He's going to get another year. And I'm okay with him getting another year. I will add, now this is not something that I need to stand up and scream every day or at every single person on Twitter, that he needs to get into the playoffs next year, or my position is likely going to change. That's it. When it comes to Bryce Underwood, right before I came on, I had a friend of mine send me a text about Bryce Underwood, and it reads the following. When Bryce Underwood begins fall camp his senior year or rookie year in the NFL, he'll be the same age as OSU freshman quarterback Julian Sayin is right now, the oldest freshman of all time. I guess he's talking about Sayin. So I don't know if I should have even walked through that. Underwood's 18 right now. He's going to be 19 as a sophomore, 2021. So Sayin must be 21. Is there a point? If that's true, this is just I didn't vet and actually look if Julian Sayin is 21 right now, and if Underwood, I know he is 18. It was pointed out a few times. We know his birthday's August the 19th. And so he is going to be the same age. So Sayin was a redshirt freshman, but so I figured he was at least a year older. But he's saying, 3 years older of being a redshirt freshman. That doesn't make sense to me, but, when you're born and all that kind of stuff. Does that make me feel better about Bryce Underwood in Michigan? Not really. Sorry. It doesn't. I factored in that Bryce Underwood was 18. I have factored in that he was a true freshman with what I was expecting to see. I also factored in the bonus baby money and the recruiting rankings, and I put it all together. And what I've come out with after the end of the season is that I'm not sitting around telling everybody, oh, it was a fine freshman year for Bryce Underwood. He met expectations. He did about what I expected. That's not true. I expected a little bit more from him. Yeah, he showed some flashes, but he was underwhelming mostly. That doesn't mean that I think he's horse crap. And that doesn't mean I don't think that he can mature and progress and be an excellent quarterback next year. That's my position. I think all the other positions are garbage. He's bolting. That would be, I don't know. We'll wait and see. I don't think that's happening. Oh, he won't develop at Michigan. You don't know that. I don't either. I'm expecting a way better quarterback next year. I'm expecting one that is going to throw the football, and he's going to look like he did and process the game like he did before he melted down against Northwestern. Seeing the whole field, dotting his wide receivers, running when necessary, look like the real deal. The throw to Marsh after there was the meltdown, and he came back and helped Michigan on the final drive win the game in walk-off fashion. That's what I'm expecting. A way better Bryce Underwood. Does it do me any good to go look back and say, oh, this season? I don't know if it does any good. I probably will look at each and every game, and you'll get people that will want to challenge you on him and on his season and on specific games and on certain drives. I'm here for that. I'm here for it. I like it. I like people's feedback on it. I don't see much feedback today from the people. Might not be a lot of great, thoughts banging around for the Michigan football fans out there. National Signing Day, and now we're talking about the fandom of Michigan and how it's all over the place, and really how it's just on the extremes, and how the extremists on either side want you either in their camp or they tell you you're in the other camp. I don't like that. I don't like the super Michigan fan who's telling me, like, I'm tired of all these negative and nobody knows. Why don't you just find another team? Okay. That's a little bit too much for me. But, there's the other side of these guys, like, the thing's going to hell in a handbasket. You're just delusional. You're just a slappy. Call you something else. All right. Let's meet in the middle. There's a time, there's a score, there's a context, there's perspective. All those different things that need. But so I guess I'm a gatekeeper of the panic from Saturday and the fallout and the crash out. And then the same thing where there was some panic and there was about to be some crash outs on Wednesday. All of it, I think, is understandable. You can't drag it out into, till Christmas. So there's that's where I'm at when it comes down to it. Thoughts? Ron has a thought. He wanted more, but took what we got. Yeah, that's it, Ron. I might be because putting up the stop sign on people that would normally say, "Yeah, this is how I think," but I don't want to be gatekeeped or shouted down. Sorry about that. I enjoyed the feedback from the people. However, you feel about it. I also think you got to remember that it is the different people that you listen to or watch. I mean, it's about the entertainment of the games and the teams and the program. Saturday was not all that entertaining, but the last 4 years were before that. That's comforting, and the future looks. Does the future look promising? I think it does. They've got talent, they've got money, and they got a chance, and they're positioned to make the playoffs next year. So I think you should feel good about Michigan football, even if you still got the hangover from Saturday, which I still do a little bit, 10%. I'm hoping to get that down after this weekend to single digits, certainly. What helps is talking with Michigan fans and being involved with Michigan. You're saying, I'm all about winter sports now. Basketball, which is coming up here next that we're going to talk about. Hockey, women's basketball. It's going great. I want more coverage. I want to see more. I want to talk about it more. Well, here's a way to do that right here. It's the Maize and Blue Review. And you want to start getting into recruiting in 2027? You want to start the crash out early? Let's go. Not crash out. I keep saying that. The fun. It's going on now. The Maize and Blue Review. Go to on3.com/rivals. Maize and Blue Review. You hit it. You're in. Instant access. And you're all about it. We'd love to see you. I guarantee you will have a great time. So a great time is to be had by all if you're a sports fan this weekend. If you're sitting around saying, no, I don't know, I'm down on watching football tomorrow. I don't like the conference championship games. College football's the NIL's ruined it. The playoffs are a joke. You got a point about the conference championship games. I don't know about the ultimate excitement of these, but there's 3 windows. There's a couple championship games tonight of the G4s or the whatever it used to be group of 5 or the non P4s, I guess is what they are. G5s, is that what they are? I'm sorry if I don't have that right, but there's a couple tonight. The Michigan hockey team is on TV tonight at 8:30. The Michigan hockey team is the number 1 team in the country. They are at number 3, Michigan State. It's on TV. It's on the Big Ten Network. That's something that I have circled for tonight. That's great theater. There's a good basketball game tonight. Tomorrow, we've got Michigan at 4:00, and they are opening up the Big Ten season against Rutgers. Now, that is something to get excited about. That is something where you're a Michigan fan and you're looking to replace all of the football. Basketball can do that, and it's there. I think it's nice that it starts on a Saturday during the conference championships because you wanting to replace that, and now here it is. You could just pour yourself into the Michigan basketball team, and it's a great team to get behind. They are the number 3 team in the country. They're coming off one of the great performances ever by a college basketball team over a 3-day period. Now, people talk about those. You go back, UConn, when they were, they made this run to win their conference tournament when they won 5 games in a row. Great run. All the conference tournaments, the teams that come from but Michigan in a preseason tournament, what they did in Vegas, well, it's not just me. It was everyone who follows college basketball saying this is one of the most historic 3-day runs they've ever seen. So that's what they have put out there. And now we want to see if that's going to stay in Vegas or if that's coming back to Ann Arbor. We'll find out. And if you want to be involved right after the game, pretty much right after the game, we have the Michigan basketball post-game live show on this very feed that you're watching and listening to right now. And we will be talking about what we saw during the game. We take your feedback. We run through all of it. We cover everything with Michigan basketball after the games. If you're not available right after the game, well, you have it there both on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. So that's good for you if you want. Oh, that's where it is. I'm looking at the menu for the weekend, which again starts tonight with Michigan State hockey. The basketball games tomorrow, they're not just good, they're great. Duke and MSU are playing. Kentucky and Gonzaga are playing this weekend. And of course, addition to Michigan and Rutgers. So all of that, then you got all of the conference championships. You get the 3 windows tomorrow from noon to 4 to 7:30 or 8, whenever whenever Indiana and Ohio State play. I think it's 8 o'clock. So all of that, and then Sunday's not too shabby without the Lions, you've got the Bears and Packers that you hope for a tie, I guess. I don't know what we're doing there. That's it. So that's where I'm at. Feedback wise, the people maybe are taking it easy. Are thinking, okay, we'll see you in September. So you won't see me in September if you're someone that's watching this channel. Tomorrow after the basketball game, I'll be here and we'll talk about Michigan hoops, and then we'll recap the weekend back here on Monday. In between, we'll see you over on the Maize and Blue Review. That's where I am looking at the posts. That's where I am responding to people. That's where I am writing story. That's what I'm doing. Putting it all in there and spilling my thoughts on the Maize and Blue Review. We'd love to see you over there. I'd guarantee you'll love it. So it's the holiday season. Why not take care of that someone special yourself with the gift of the Maize and Blue Review? All right. Thanks so much. Have a great Friday. And we'll talk with you tomorrow after Michigan and Rutgers.